Right now, the new dad, also Sactown Sports Kings insider, the one, the only Frankie Cartoscelli.
We bring the boom. That's what we do.
Good morning, Franklin. How are you?
Is it a good morning? Good morning, I guess. Good morning.
Hey, man, listen.
Is Frankie down and out?
Wow. You down and out? Because I know Brendan, our other insider, went on Twitter yesterday, or maybe it was the day before. Some guy just pissed me off. Brendan goes, I think he said, like, how are we feeling, Kings fans? I literally think that was the tweet. And
oh boy.
Dude, go ahead, Frank.
No, it's funny to see because, like, I saw that tweet too, and it's got, I think, like 75 responses. But that's kind of what we're here for sometimes. The guys that cover the game, we're kind of like a soundboard for. I mean, you guys know too, having the show for years. This is kind of what the deal is. You kind of have an outlet for people to vent, and maybe they scream at you or they kind of want to sound off. That's fine. That's what we're here for. I'm happy to be on the receiving end of that. Now, Brendan has kind of taken the torch there, and I've never been more happy to be changing poopy diapers and having a baby scream in my face, wanting to be fed during this time, because it's been a pretty good distraction and been a pretty good just kind of palate cleanser, if you will, where I haven't had to really kind of get too into the weeds. But that's because the Kings have been on the road, and now we're pretty much going to be living at Golden One Center. So we're going to see the Kings either turn this thing around and have a lot more. Maybe Brendan can put out that tweet again in a week and we're having some more uplifting conversations, or maybe there's a lot more responses with the warranted negative feedback.
Jason, Brendan asked, so how are we feeling about the Sacramento Kings? He asked that Sunday morning question.
Mm-hmm.
And this one guy, and I won't say his name because he actually is a long time. He's been listening to the show since he was a young guy. He seems like a good guy. He goes, feeling great. Also, did your parents raise you to be pessimistic and negative, or just do it all on your own? Grow up. You're such a vibe killer. Like, the season isn't over yet, dude. Relax. God forbid we're under 500. What a loser. My parents personally and thankfully raised me better. Grow up. Ew.
Wow.
What?
So that's how they're feeling.
Boom roasted.
He has to quit. And, of course, I got in there and start arguing with the guy. This is why more people like Brendan. Brendan goes, shut up, mom and dad, for real. That was his big angry response. God bless Brendan. That's where the fan base, I shouldn't say the fan base, but Jason, some of the fan base.
Yeah. So, Frankie, I guess the question goes to you. How are you feeling about the Kings right now?
A little better than that guy. I mean, look, the questions that we had about this team and the roster are kind of, they're coming to fruition here. And I think I've heard you guys talk about it. I've talked about it with, Alan on his show, Chris, Brendan, countless other people that cover the team or even are just fans of the team. And the questions about this roster construction are just really kind of, making a lot of sense now. And, you see a team allow 50% 3-point shooting in back-to-back games. That ties a franchise worst for games in a row, allowing 50% or better from three. It makes you question, what is the end game here? And with not many games left, and there's 15 to go, and the play-in looks like it's going to probably happen, and that's because Phoenix continues to bottom out. After Phoenix, of course, got their much-needed relief in the form of a win over the Kings, they get back to losing ways a night later. So I just don't have much optimism that the schedule is going to do them any favors. You have Memphis tonight. Even without John Morant, they're going to be a problem. Obviously, Cleveland, self-explanatory. Kevin Huerter revenge game Wednesday night. We'll see. That would make a lot of sense. But, Giannis and the Bucks, there really isn't a break coming up. You can look at Chicago as a game the Kings, quote-unquote, should win. But I don't know if the Kings really warrant that kind of sentence as far as the Kings, quote, should beat this team. They're kind of a team that a lot of teams are looking at the same way. So I look at the roster construction as, where do they go this offseason? Is it time to kind of have that conversation of, is it time to look to rebuild? I'm not sure. I mean, they have a lot of big contracts that I'm not sure if you can offload 2 of those 3 big contracts. It doesn't seem realistic to me, but maybe the Kings, again, people that are kind of listening to something like that and saying that we're being too negative or the outlook, that's just my outlook. That's just how I feel. Maybe the Kings do rattle off 3 or 4 here and turn things around and go into the play-in and make the first round. I don't think that's likely, but I just think that the ceiling of this team is a lot lower post-trade deadline.
Frankie, did you happen to see we were talking about this earlier, did you happen to see the polls I put out earlier on over the weekend on rebuilding and all that stuff?
I did see them.
Okay, good. Well, I was I wanted to surprise you. So usually, especially lately, it's been closer, but I haven't really seen anytime I ask about a rebuild, which is like once or twice a year usually, it's always been way, way, way like, no, wouldn't want to do a rebuild. 70% of the Kings fan base polled says that they would support a full load up on picks, bottom out for 2 to 3 years type rebuild. 70%. What I also found interesting, because I've never seen anything this high. I can't get people to agree on anything. 92% of the fan base does not have confidence in the Sacramento Kings ownership to shepherd them through a rebuild. Those are some pretty sobering figures, I think, for a fan base, especially with a team currently above 500.
I mean, it kind of speaks to the current state of where things are with the franchise that we've seen for the past 10 plus years now. Front offices come in and, attempt to make swing for the fence type moves or attempt to kind of right the ship. And then, whether it's direction from people that are, in ownership or people that are, giving their support or lending their ear to ownership, there's these moves that kind of happen that kind of erase what unfolded. And I've seen clips on social media, people putting, highlights of game 1 and game 2 in 2023 and just kind of wondering how did things get to this point? And it's a valid question. How did things unravel so quickly? And was it the front office, looking to ride out a team that they thought had enough talent? Was it that they were being pulled in different directions and went against making some moves they should have? And it's all in hindsight now, but I think that here we are now in 2025, about to head into the offseason, and it's a much different looking team, much different looking coaching staff than the team we began the year with. And, I think that the pessimism in those polls kind of is really an accurate depiction of the faith that this fan base has in the organization to make the right moves going forward. And who is going to make the call this offseason? Monte McNair has one more year on his contract. Is he going to have a job going forward? And will the organization trust him to try and kind of, put back the pieces together or build around a core of Levine, Sabonis, and Murray? I mean, is it time to kind of rip the cord, like you said, and look to offload some of those contracts? I don't think it's even possible to move more than one of them, like we talked about. I think, between Sabonis, DeRozan, and Levine, it seems DeRozan will be the most likely contract that can be moved. And, how much better does that make you as a team, though, if that happens? Because you probably have to attach draft capital to offload that contract. So it's really an interesting position that they're in. I don't know how they can clean their way out of it. They probably don't have a draft pick this year either if things continue to unfold as they will. Not to be all doomsday and a bummer, but it's hard to look at the current state of the roster, the cap sheet, the asset board, and feel really optimistic this is going to change anytime soon.
I just want to follow up on the contracts. I understand Levine has one of the most immovable contracts in the league. He's on the final year of the guarantee, and then shouldn't say guarantee. Next year, final year, and then he has a player option, which I imagine he's going to pick up. We've talked about it before. Levine might have a top 5 most immovable contract in the league. DeRozan, I feel like you'd be able to move him to somebody and get, I don't know what the hell back, but it's. Do you think Sabonis's contract would be tough to move?
Just on, people that I talk, no one that's, nothing concrete, but just it seems like there's a lot of pessimism that the Kings be able to move that contract without having to attach more with it. I mean, because of the fact that he's getting to the point where he's close to being, I don't want to say he's aging. He's 28, almost 29 years old, an aging center, but you see how centers age in the NBA today, and it's a risk. And taking back a $40+ million contract for multiple years is certainly a risk, and one that the Kings will probably have to attach more than just a bonus to. And again, I don't think it's what the Kings necessarily want to do. I think after all that's happened so far, especially ownership, they look to Sabonis as the guy that can help kind of, steer this team into the new era. And I don't think they have really any interest in moving him. But like we've seen our friends Sam Amick and Anthony Slater at the Athletic report that Domas is going to meet with the team this offseason and determine the best direction forward. I'm not sure what perspective or what kind of viewpoint he's coming from. I think it might have to be from the angle of, let's get things back on track here more, versus I need out. Because if he wants out, that's a lot easier said than done. I mean, De'Aaron Fox was a younger guard, had a lot of upside, and, San Antonio jumped the chance. The bonus, haven't heard anything over the past year plus. I don't think it's something the Kings would look to do, but could be wrong. But $40+ million is a very tough contract to move. And like you mentioned, Levine, the player option muddies things a little bit, but it goes back to the Kings' top draft or top trade asset is Keegan Murray, and the team has said again and again they don't want to part with Keegan Murray. And I think at a time like now, where the future is murky, you don't want to part with a 24, 25-year-old wing with years of control and with restricted free agency coming up. So I think that he's the top trade asset still, but it doesn't seem like the Kings are going to want to part with him, and that there won't be many takers for a $40+ million salary and some bonus.
That's Frankie Cartoscelli, Sacramento Kings insider for Sactown Sports. You can read him all over our website at sactownsports.com. Also follow him on Twitter as well. Frankie, appreciate it. Keep up on those diapers. Hopefully we won't have another diaper of a game tonight, my man. Thank you.
I'll have the wet wipes ready. Thanks, guys.
Got it, baby. Avoid the diaper rash. We'll take a break. When we come back, it's the third matchup against the Grizzlies. We'll go a little bit deeper in there. I want to talk with him about, I don't know if I agree with him on those contracts. I'm not saying Frankie's wrong. I kind of want to talk that out with you, Jason. We'll get to all that right after this.
The only place you'll find Malik Monk is Sactown Sports.